Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here with my last, The Dawn of Yangchen chapter analysis video. This one is for chapter 41, Epilogue, the last chapter of the book. Been a long series, but we are here at the end. Pretty short chapter to end it off with, but interesting. It has a cliffhanger, it's a Kavik chapter, and let's just go through this one. So we start off with Kavik basically just kind of noting in a way the legacy in a way that Yangchen has now generated in Bin-Er. The people love her because in their mind she solved this spirit crisis in the city. So most of the people believe that it was, like she's saying to the Earth King, some sort of a spiritual thing that has happened, and that's why there's so many air nomads now in Bin-Er. And people like seeing the air nomads around, because just in general, they're well respected in this era, but they seem to prevent the Shang merchants from sending in the head kickers, the thugs, the errand runners, and they are also seeming to send, keep the Earth King from sending his forces in. Because like was explained before, it would look terrible for the Shangs, but also for the Earth King to just get violent when there's a lot of air nomads around. So that's what they're really adding to this whole situation. And obviously for Yangchen, this is allowing for her to do a lot in Bin-Er. It's noted that she's making regular trips in and out of Bin-Er. So she's kind of forming a nice relationship with the people of Bin-Er. But notably, she has never come to see Kavik since the last time they spoke. And he sort of accepts this, that just being sort of in a way ignored by her is probably the lightest punishment he could have actually received. But it does say it still hurt. It says here, he assumed Yangchen, Akudan and Taigum had learned the truth, and they hadn't visited either. So, an interesting one, because he notes in a way that he is sort of like Yangchen now, sort of just wandering around, not really knowing what his direction is. So Yangchen and Kavik have had this kind of role reversal. From meeting Yangchen, Yangchen now sort of has a path. He's sort of, it seems like, loyal to Yangchen. He has accepted, I suppose, some level of forgiveness to some extent from her, and now has a purpose again. And seems to be that like he's more or less paired up with Akudan and Taigum, that he's with them as, I suppose, three people that she can access in Jandari if she needs it. So it'll be interesting to see if we come back to Yangchen, because we probably do still need to know the details of what exactly he did. How did he, quote-unquote, kill his brother? What exactly happened there? Is it really bad, or was it a mistake, basically? It feels like that setup where we'll learn at least one more thing about Yangchen going forward. So there is that. So Kavik feels a little bit surprisingly lost, not being the companion anymore. But at this point he notices that he's sort of being watched by a water tribe man. And he begins to move off. He notices that the guy's following him. He is being trailed. And he notes this because he had a northern gait of walking softly so as not to break through ice crusts or overturn gravel. So he was new to the city. And again, Kavik tries to lose the tail. He goes down an alleyway, makes a few turns, but the guy is still following him. So he has skill. He knows how to track. And he follows Kavik all the way. At a bit of a dead end, Kavik tries to use a water ladder to kind of get over a wall, but it is taken out from underneath him by water bending. So this guy who's following him is a skilled water bender as well. Kavik falls to the ground and tries to draw water towards himself, but the guy following him has already drawn all that water towards himself. So very, very skilled. Kavik even makes the comparison that his skill is like similar to that of Kalyan's. And we know that Kavik views himself as being weaker than Kalyan, so that kind of comes into play again. So Kavik realizes like, oh, I'm done for here. I'm either about to be killed or captured. But he notes that he won't talk. He refuses to talk. Even if it was kill or be killed. He was not going to be part of any more games. He was done. But then all of a sudden, there's a thud, and the waterbender guy chasing Kavik collapses to the ground. Mama Ayunarak is here. And she has, it seems like, clubbed the guy over the back of the head with something. Because it just says, the elderly woman tucked some unseen weapon under the back of her parka. And Kavik, of course, is confused. We know Ayunarak is Order of the White Lotus. Yangchen does. But this is Kavik's first time realizing the extent of a Unarak's involvement in things. Because he just thinks that she's the woman who runs the kind of restaurant that feeds the people who are less well off. And he supports her because of that. So he's like, what's going on? And she says, this man is a thin claw. A scout loyal only to High Chieftain Oyaluk. And the fact that he was following you means your involvement in unanimity and its secrets are uncomfortably close to reaching the light of day. And this again shocks Kavik, because this reveals that, okay, she's not just more capable than I thought, but she knows what unanimity is, knows I was really heavily involved in it, and that it's important for it not to get out. She is talking in a very similar way to sort of Yangchen and the way she talks about things, being very careful. So he immediately is like alerted to the fact that, okay, she is connected, she's involved in things, what's going on here? I was like, how do you know that? It's my job to know things, Kavik. My friends and I know a great deal. And Unarak starts to assess Kavik, like look him up and down, and he notes that this is very similar to the way Yangchen assessed me ahead of like choosing me as an errand runner / companion. And I think it's high time you joined us. So it seems like Kavik is being recruited into the Order of the White Lotus, which is a very, very interesting reveal. But there's a lot to speculate about straight away. That's how the book comes to an end. To be continued. Straight away you're wondering, is this just a case where like she actually values him and thinks he could be a good member of the Order of White Lotus? Is this something that she's just being like, okay, we'll make use of you, but the main reason we're recruiting you is to protect you because you know the truth about unanimity and it's better if you're with us than anything else? So is it a true like offer because he's valuable, or is it just that he has valuable information? That's going to be an interesting one to see. The other question you would have is, how connected are the Order of the White Lotus and Yangchen now? Yangchen was obviously questioning, like, oh, will I involve them in, like, looking after the combustion benders? But we don't really know what happened, because, of course, it seemed like Yangchen returned to Bin-Er with just Jujinta, Akudan, and Taigum. That Mama Unarak didn't come with her, so she stayed behind or came by herself, because she's in Bin-Er now. So it seems like they went their own separate ways. So I still get the impression that they're probably not on the best of terms, but they are aware that the world needs to not know about unanimity. So there might be some sense that a Unarak is doing this sort of in a way to help Yangchen or on Yangchen's orders. Again, Yangchen said she would use Kavik as an asset. Is this how she's doing that, by not interacting with him herself, but instead saying, Order of White Lotus, you take Kavik or something? There's a few things like that that are interesting in that when we go into book 2, and I'm assuming the two, Kavik and Yangchen, will meet each other again, will she be annoyed, expecting Kavik to turn up and be Order of White Lotus, or will she view this as like another betrayal in a way, that I don't like Order of White Lotus, and here you are with them? Or is this part of the plan? I'm not really sure, and it makes it interesting. I do think that ultimately the Order of White Lotus and Yangchen are on the same side of things, but they just have a disagreement about how to do things. So I can't imagine that there's too much of a case here where like they're acting like against each other or anything like that. But they probably are at least acting on their own. So it might be a surprise to Yangchen, but they could surprise us. It would be very interesting if we jumped into the next book and it's just suddenly revealed that, like, you know, Kavik was recruited because of Yangchen and they quickly get back on terms with each other. Again, my impression on that is that I do think Kavik will need to do something to sort of prove himself to her. But I also think that the thing that got Yangchen back on track in the last chapter, being reminded that Kavik and she saved that woman together. I think it reminded Yangchen that Kavik does have a good heart at his core. That he did help in that situation and all these other situations as well. That she is very upset with him right now, but that she realizes that there's a goodness to him. And I'm wondering if that is already sort of in place, that this is a way for her to use Kavik, and in time they'll come back together, and we'll see what happens. So, an interesting one for sure, because, okay, Kavik being Order of the White Lotus, because there might be some sense. What if this is a long-term plan from Yangchen to have a plant in the Order of the White Lotus, and that she suddenly, like, meets up with Kavik in secret and is like, okay, I want you to tell me what the White Lotus is doing. That would be really clever if they did that, and we see how that plays out. It would place Kavik in a weird situation with other people that he trusts, but we'll see how it goes. A big thing, of course, is that he was about to be kidnapped / assassinated, I suppose if he maybe didn't say anything, by a Thin Claw. So, you know, his own, like, tribe leader is coming after him here. Oyaluk is hunting down Kavik because he knows the truth about unanimity. And it's the idea seems to be that this is what the Earth King is doing, it's what Oyaluk is doing, and it's what Fire Lord Gonryu is doing. That they're all searching for the truth about what actually happened in Bin-Ur. And it's that's idea that very soon, in time, the truth will come out. And in this case, you know, a Unarak at the end notes that, you know, its secrets are uncomfortably close to reaching the light of day. If they've already figured out that Kavik is key, it's going to come to light. Someone somewhere will leak this. They'll find the truth out. So what is going on here is a very interesting point. Because obviously doing a small bit of speculation. I'll have another video, probably not too much further after this video releases, doing more full-on speculation about book 2, early speculation, and then I think I'll do another one when we get the cover revealed, the description for the book revealed. But at the moment, like it's an interesting spot because we have what seems like quite a few kind of, you know, villains, you know, antagonists, and that it's basically going to be like Yangchen and I guess the Order of the White Lotus and anyone loyal to her against Chai-Si, the Earth King, the Fire Lord, the High Chief, in terms of just keeping the information out of them. And if it does come to light that she's been keeping that from them, then suddenly all the nations are annoyed at the Avatar, which is a really interesting position to be put in. But Chai-Si, I think, ultimately is key to all of this. That if it does turn up that there is another combustion bender, that is something that Yangchen needs to investigate. Because if she can sort of, like, in a way, shut down the creation of more combustion benders, that's one way to sort of stop things. That way there's only 3 people you need to hide rather than potentially dozens. Like, who knows how many there's going to be. But just the idea that, like, Chai-Si now has information research about how to at least create a little bit of a pipeline of constantly having combustion benders. That information in a way needs to be taken out. So Chai-Si definitely feels like the focus because there's so much set up with her. The idea that she's, like, pregnant. She was ultimately the mastermind of a lot of this, well above Honshu. She is the one doing a lot of research on it, and is the one directly sort of teasing Yangchen about, like, the position that she's in and so on. So that's, to me, very, very interesting how they go about doing this. They've already named, of course, Ashuna as the Zongdu of Port Tugok. Don't get a super impression that that's going to be maybe super important. Taku, of course, they've said is what Book 2 will focus on to some degree. We didn't learn basically anything about Taku in this book, so we'll have to find out who the Zongdu is, what's going on there. And then, let's not forget, Kalyan is also sort of somewhere missing in all of this. He is obviously a very skilled bender. He has issues with Kavik. That's going to be something that will need to be resolved. And what's he up to? He's obviously sort of fearful for his life against Chai-Si, but you also wonder how much does he know about everything, and he's maybe out on his own. So might he make a grab for power? Who will he turn up sort of like allied with, or will he be on his own? That's a big one. Because I think we will eventually lead to some sort of a conflict between those two. My impression is that I think they probably will end up having a Kavik-Kalyan fight. And it will be very interesting if Kavik is eventually able to defeat him. That would be a big moment of character growth for Kavik. But we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But yeah, that is the book. And I have to say, like, having gone through it now in full, like all these videos, I do think the book is excellent. I do think it's 3 out of 3 for Avatar novels. I don't think this book deserves to be like criticized heavily or anything like that. I think there's a lot of good to this. I do think it is a book that you need to, in a way, the second you finish it, go through another reread, or watch a series of videos like this, because I think there's a lot of subtle detail that you can maybe miss on your first read through because you're just eager to get the reveal of the mystery, eager to get to the big moments. But when you go back and look at all the details here, like the setup is excellent for the next book, and that if there's any criticism for this one, it is just that it does set up everything without really resolving anything, in that Honsha is probably the only like resolution that this book has. Otherwise, like, combustion benders are still wide open. Chai-Si is still out there as a Shang villain. There's still more Shang stuff to explore. Now, the information getting out there is the major plot point that involves all of the nations. And now there's this Kavik Order of White Lotus plot point. So there's so much to speculate about going into the next book. And the next book could be potentially the best book we've ever had if it gets everything right. Let's not forget that there's still Yangchen and Jetson. That seems to be a plot point that's been sort of pushed to the side for a little bit, but we have to come back to that one, surely. So we'll see how that happens, that plays out. That'll be interesting to see if they, in a way, mark out some time to actually have Yangchen explore that, because the way they presented that in the last chapter was that if she chooses to be less active, she will have time to do it. Otherwise, she might not actually have time. So something will have to happen to get her on that trail. So we'll see what goes on there. But yeah, that is the end of this very long series. It was much longer than the Kyoshi books just because of the number of chapters that there were. There was a lot of shorter chapters. So it meant there was probably like 10 more videos I had to do here than for either the previous 2 books. But I know a lot of people really like these as like a companion to the series, to get all the details, me going through it. But it's also useful for me just in terms of trying to learn the book. Because like I've said, like, I read the book once, I feel I need to read it immediately again. But then, yes, spending time and doing a video on each chapter really helps to highlight that there's something of note in every chapter. There's details that you might miss if you do just skim through the book. So doing these is useful for me as much as it is for anyone else. So I'm very kind of glad to kind of be through it now, because I feel like I truly know the book cover to cover, inside and out. And I'm so excited to make a couple more videos on Yangchen. Like I said, I'll have some sort of a speculation video about the next book. I'll have a separate video about combustion bending. Now that there's a bit more to add on to that, and more to come. Like, we have podcast reviews. Myself and Greg will be going through the book as well. So there's other Yangchen videos you will see going forward on the channel. And of course, I'll be covering news about the new book as it comes out. So definitely, stay tuned. Like, there's a lot more just full-on Avatar stuff to come. And then let's not forget, Avatar Studio is not that far away. By the time we get the next Yangchen book, we'll be, I think, full-on in Avatar Studio's hype cycle. So that will be very exciting as well. So I'll just wrap this up by just kind of saying that, like, thanks to everyone for, if you watched this series in full, amazing that you did that. If you do want to support the channel, there's links in the descriptions to the kind of PayPal donation stuff if you want to do that, or YouTube channel membership is probably the obvious kind of thing with YouTube. You get some perks for that as well. That really helps to support the channel and help me to just like continue to do this, so that like when potentially things are much busier when the next Yangchen book comes out, that I'm completely ready to do it for the chapter analysis videos for that one as well. So check out those if you do want to help support the channel. Other than that, thanks for watching this video, this whole series. That's been it. Thanks for watching, and bye.